Hi, everyone. I'm Dave.
And I'm Rob.
I'd like to welcome you to our Chipola Fifth Quarter podcast. We're so excited to share concepts from the classroom, management, business topics, leadership topics, and connect those to the game of football that we love. We look at the pro game, college, even some high school topics that we'll look at, throughout the weeks and the months. It's an exciting time. We just recently we're named the fifth overall business school in the U.S., and that's for the quality and affordability of our programs. So it's exciting to share in that. It's really based on our hard work together. We all kind of try to move the ball forward and try to do great things. So it's exciting to share some of these activities with you. And I know, Rob, you have some wonderful topics to keep us moving with today.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's continue our conversation from last week. We were talking about the 12-team playoff expansion, so I figured we'd kind of just pick up where we left off. Under a 12-team playoff expansion, I want to ask the question, who gets in? In your world, who gets in? When you think of a 12-team expansion, with the exception to your Alabamas, maybe your Clemsons and Ohio States, who would you say in your world gets in?
So not that I agree with it or not, but I think Notre Dame's always getting a shot. They kind of lead the independents. It'd be neat to see another independent BYU kind of get a nod. I mean, they always flirt with one loss, no losses, so it'd be kind of cool to see them as a contender. You might actually get some teams that are kind of on the bubble typically, if there were a bubble. Maybe a Cincinnati.
Yep.
Maybe a UCF.
Possibly.
Maybe, yeah. So it's interesting for sure.
All right.
Memphis, maybe. I mean, there's some outsiders.
Ooh, I think Memphis might be stretching it a little bit.
Maybe I'm thinking basketball.
Yeah, maybe basketball, but football, Memphis University, we might just be stretching it a little bit there. I've compiled a list of my teams, and this is just my viewpoint. I know some of our viewers may disagree, but these are the teams I think would get in under this system. So let's look at this hypothetically overall. Let's say that the 12-team playoff system has went through the committees, went through the proper channels, and they're fixing to roll it out for the 2021 season. Here is my teams who would get in under this system. So here's what we know. Like we talked about last week, we know that the 6 highest-ranked conference champions get an automatic bid. So it's the 6 highest-ranked conference champions. So you got 6 conferences, each champion, the highest ranked, they're getting in. I mean, there's no question about it, no doubt about it. There's no room for error.
So that's probably USC or Oregon gets one of those slots.
Well, let's kind of talk about this now. Again, these are just my teams. Some of our viewers or you may disagree, and feel free to stop me at any point so that we can kind of dissect these, because I think it's important for our viewers to understand. Okay, why do you feel that this team or that team is going to get in, and why? So starting with number 1, Alabama. I think that's a given.
That is, for sure.
Yeah, and Saban just extended his contract through the 2028 season, so he's kind of putting the rest of the league on notice, so to speak. Alabama most likely a number 1 seed. I don't see any reason for Alabama to deviate from their original plan for success. They're the defending champions of 2020. Really took it to the Ohio State Buckeyes. I don't see any reason, even with Saban's contract extension. I say even under a 12-team expansion, I say Alabama is the number 1 seed overall.
Well, certainly 1 or 2, but yeah, 1 looks pretty good.
Yeah, I say 1. I don't see any reason for them to deviate from that. At number 2, this one was kind of tough, but I'm going based off of last year's numbers and overall moving forward, their recruits and who they've got coming back, things of that nature. I see Ohio State as a number 2 seed.
Oh, wow.
That I had to swallow my pride on that one.
I don't know if that's well earned, but yeah, I could see him at number 2. They just get a lot of hype.
Well, now I don't want to be rude. I didn't say it was well earned. I'm just saying, between this committee and you got to figure the media coverage that ESPN's going to give it, throughout the season. I definitely see Ohio State being a number 2 seed.
I think Herbie, one of the anchors with ESPN, is an Ohio State alum as their quarterback.
Yeah, right? He might be just a little bit biased. Again, I'm trying to leave all personal opinions out of it.
He never picks Michigan.
Wonder why. I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, I think under a 12-team system, I think this Ohio State Buckeyes team, I don't really respect them a whole lot. I say last year they really caught a break due to COVID and some other protocols that were being put in place. So what I saw was like a 6-game, 6-win Ohio State team go in, and they made it past Clemson, and that the hype was all there. But then they got to the defending national champion, Alabama Crimson Tide, and then Alabama just took the broom to them, so to speak. I mean, it just, at the end of the day, it is
Right.
what it is. It's very hard to kind of compile a list because there's always going to be somebody watching this whenever it gets edited and gets put out that's going to say, oh, whatever, yada, 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 you're this, that, and the other. But the truth is, in my world, I say Ohio State is a number 2 seed. And again, what I'm discussing is the first 6 highest ranked, they're locked in. So I'm saying Alabama's locked in at number 1 seed. I'm saying Ohio State is locked in as a number 2 seed.
Northwestern could give them a run, right?
Possibly. I mean, stranger things have happened.
Yeah,
correct?
Northwestern had a good year last year.
Right, absolutely. So stranger things have happened. Sitting at number 3 seed, Clemson, the Clemson Tigers. Now, we talked several weeks back, I talked about how I don't look for Clemson to finish strong. I've kind of backtracked on that a little bit. Now, Clemson, has a young offensive line coming in. They've got DJ, he's got like a long last name, so I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Coming in as quarterback, I'm told he's producing real well at practice. He's starting to get the reps down, starting to learn the plays really well. Stepped in, he'd done really well last year, for him, even when they had Lawrence. But they got a really young offensive line, and I think that's what's going to factor into their make or break season. I say this is Clemson's make or break season. And under a 12 playoff system, I say Clemson, if they can put the pieces in place, they'll be good enough to lock in a number 3 seed in a 12-team playoff.
That's tough because North Carolina, they could make a run.
Possibly.
Miami's always right there, kind of at their heels.
Possibly.
So,
Well, we're not done on this list yet, so we're just getting started. I mean, I've only gotten to 3.
Right.
So it's sitting at number 4 seed. I say the Oklahoma Sooners in the Big 12.
Yes.
And again,
See, they could have been number 2, I thought.
Right, absolutely. And again, the 6 highest ranked conference champions. So again, all these teams that I have named so far, and I'm going to name until I get to my last one, I say are going to win their conference and get an automatic bid. So I'm calling for Alabama to win the SEC. I don't see any reason for that to change. I'm calling for Ohio State to win the Big Ten. Michigan, they're going to have to take their lumps and try to rebuild. I say Clemson is still good enough to win the ACC. I say they get in as a number 3 seed. Oklahoma in the Big 12, I'm calling for them to be a number 4 seed. Spencer Rattler's coming back. He was a Heisman finalist.
Yeah, they're solid.
Yeah, very, very solid team. I don't see any reason for Oklahoma to not be in the playoff conversation at the end of the season. And a number 5 seed, this one was tough. This one was real tough. I'm calling for Oregon, the Ducks, to get the 5 seed in the Pac-12 and win the Pac-12.
Yeah, maybe them or the Trojans. Yeah.
Yeah, them or the Trojans, but I feel like you're leaning more Trojans. Your body language right now is I'm just sensing it.
Yeah, well, it's running back you, right?
Well, what we talked about a few weeks ago, USC's got to fix the run game.
They do.
They lost J.T. Daniels, transferred to Georgia. Kirby Smart's starting to, get him in at some reps, practice. I really think J.T. Daniels is going to be a solid starter for the Dogs in the 2021 season. He was pretty solid last year, but they lost J.T. Daniels from USC. He transfers over to Georgia. Welcome to the SEC, son. That's all I got to say.
It's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough, but I still say Oregon, given their style of play, spread offenses and everything that they do, I don't see any reason why the Ducks, if they play their cards right, don't win the Pac-12 and get an automatic bid. Moving on at number 6, this is the last team that I feel like is going to be locked in for a playoff berth. This one was tough, but it's in the American Athletic Conference. We've kind of talked about them the last couple of weeks. I'm calling for a Cincinnati Bearcats team to win the American Athletic Conference.
Now, is that the same conference that UCF is in?
Yes, same conference.
Wow, we have some coaching, changes there that could impact that a little bit.
Yeah, Malzahn, he gets let go from the Auburn Tigers, moves to South Florida. Central Florida gives him the job. And Malzahn's solid. If you want 9 or 10 wins, I think Malzahn is your guy. Auburn gets to the national championship in 2013, but it was unable to cap off, against a Florida State Seminoles team. That was Jimbo Fisher. Both of them have moved on now. Malzahn at UCF, and then you got Jimbo at Texas A&M. I say this Cincinnati Bearcats team, if they play their cards right, can really build off the success that they had last year. I don't see no reason why they're not sitting at a number 6 seed and they win the American Athletic Conference. You remember they played a bowl game last year against the Dogs. And
almost won.
Almost won, exactly.
Yeah, to a field goal at the end, right?
Yeah, but they played tough, and Georgia's not no pushover. You're talking about a very solid SEC team. Cincinnati Bearcats come in and give them a run for their money. I say if this Cincinnati Bearcats team, keeps all the pieces in place, don't make any mistakes, go out, play hard, win every game, 1 quarter at a time, 1 play at a time. I don't see no reason why Cincinnati's locked in at the 6th seed.
And that's great for the game, too. It kind of brings in a newer team, brings in some new fan base. That's exciting.
Which, last week I was kind of sounding redundant, so I want to kind of clarify. I'm not necessarily anti-playoff system. I'm not necessarily for it all the way, but I'm not necessarily anti-playoff either. But you want to make sure that if you're going to implement a product like this, you want to make sure that the fans can get their money's worth. Do I think whoever come up with the 12 12-team, playoff expansion is necessarily serving the interest of we're going to give the little guy, a shot and he's going to win it all. No, I think they know who's going to win it.
I mean, they're trying. It is a baby step forward.
That's absolutely.
Does not solve it by no means.
No. But there's always going to be somebody out there that's going to say, look, I mean, can we put a plan in place that's going to solve it? I hate to tell you, and I'm going to even tell this to our viewers, I don't think that's possible. I don't think it's possible to have a playoff system in place or some type of championship system in place where you're going to be able to please everybody. I just don't think that's feasible.
I'd say for the basketball, the March Madness, that they look like they've solved it. They're the play-in game now. But you can't really do football that way.
You've got to think about the dynamics of football and think about the dynamics of even baseball. You got the World Series, in the NBA Finals, basketball, what is it, the best of 7?
Right.
You figure if we played a national championship game and it was the best of 7, do you really think if it went all the way to a game 7 that all your starters would still be playing?
No way.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's just something to think about.
Third-string quarterback, probably.
Yeah, it's like, look, man, the first string got out after game 2. I mean, you're beating up on guys for 4 quarters.
Right.
And so, here's my teams that'll get a shot but probably won't win their conference. So we just discussed the 6 teams that I think will be locked in. So here's the teams that I think will get a shot, the other 6.
So Georgia maybe, right?
Yeah, I'm sitting with the Dogs. I say the Dogs are on the outside looking in. I say the Dogs are going to get a shot. Probably won't win the conference. I will say this, though. I'm calling it now. I say Georgia wins the SEC East division this year. Bama's in the West. Georgia's in the East. You got your Auburn Tigers. They're not having a very solid off season. Bo Nix is trying to battle for the QB position there in Auburn.
Florida, though, could make a little run.
Possibly. That's a possibility. I still say Florida, they've got some kinks to work out. Emory Jones.
Lost their quarterback.
Yep. Kyle Trask with the Bucks, and now you've got Emory Jones moving up to take snaps under center. And so I just think Dan Mullen is going to have a lot of work cut out for him, in Gainesville trying to train this new quarterback. Could be totally wrong. Florida could come in and surprise everybody in the East. But I say your 2 top teams, if I had to get 2 top teams in the East Division, this is kind of a given. But I say Georgia and Florida, which is going to make that, the world's largest, what is it called?
Cocktail party
or whatever, that game, in Jacksonville.
Huge.
It's going to mean a little more, even when this system gets put into place. Keep in mind, we're still talking 2 years before this system gets fully implemented.
But we're going to be ready, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we're going to have all the plan in place here just with the podcast.
Oh, absolutely. I don't see any reason why not. So I say the Dogs on the outside looking in, they're going to get a shot. Texas Longhorns. I say Texas.
Wow.
I say the Longhorns get a shot.
It takes some gumption to make that call.
Well, it
could
does.
be early for Texas.
Possibly, but they've got a new coach. They're a pretty decent team. Are they good enough to match up with the Oklahoma? No. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't see a Texas Longhorn team winning their conference. I just don't think they have all the pieces in place. But I do say they can put together like an 8-4 season, or a 9-3, or maybe a 10-2. If you go back to 12 games, of course.
So you see them beating Baylor?
Possibly. That's a huge possibility. Yeah. Maybe a Texas Tech team. I could see the Longhorns.
Oklahoma State.
I could even see Texas and Oklahoma State being a good matchup, but I could see the Longhorns possibly pulling that out. Again, this is just my opinion.
Right, that's good.
I say the Longhorns get a shot. Another one, Florida.
So that's number 8.
Yeah. So I say Florida, the Gators.
Wow.
I say the Gators get a shot.
SEC is getting a big nod.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about this last week.
Right.
Me and a buddy of mine, he's from Colquitt County up there in Georgia, big Florida fan, and we were talking. He said, in a way, I like the playoff system. He said, but I think one of the things I'm concerned about at this point is this just a playoff game where more SEC teams are getting in? Is it just going to be an extension of the SEC's chances to take over? Because, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. The SEC is producing the best teams right now.
They have the best competition, one could say, so that really gets them ready for the big games.
But here's the game changer. You put this 12-team playoff system in here, now you're freeing up money for other conferences. You're talking about your American Athletic Conference. You're even talking about the ACC getting on the action, maybe even the Midwest Conference. The MAC, teams like your Boise State.
That's
and
right.
Stuff like that.
Boise State could be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you took that.
That's good.
Let's say the 2006 Boise State Broncos that went to an 07 Fiesta Bowl against the Oklahoma
Statue
Sooners
of Liberty, yeah.
You bring that team, every one of those starters, and you put them on the field under this 12-team system, I don't see any reason why they don't claw their way within.
They're going to win a couple games.
They'll win at least a couple games. I'm not saying that they could necessarily match up with an Alabama team, but I say they claw their way in to about 2 or 3 games. So I say the Gators get a shot.
And that's number 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
So North Carolina.
Yes, I like that.
I say the Tar Heels under Mac Brown
Okay.
get a shot. I want to say Sam Howell's their QB.
Okay.
Pretty solid guy. They finished an 8-4 record in 2020.
Yeah, had a little Heisman talk about him.
A little bit.
Not much.
Maybe borderline hype. but I'll kind of stay away from that.
All right.
I still say North Carolina under Mac Brown gets a shot. Miami, I say Miami.
Wow, 3 from the ACC.
Yeah, I say the Hurricanes under Diaz, if they can put the pieces in place, go play some solid football, take care of the little things. I don't see any reason why Miami doesn't get a shot.
Is Miami 10 or 11?
I want to say I had Miami at number 11.
Okay, so number 12.
Now, number 12 is going to be tough, and we're kind of wrapping up our podcast here. Number 12 was a toss-up. So, at any point, feel free to stop me if you see something.
Well, you haven't said your favorite team yet, Notre Dame, right?
The Fighting Irish. Well, let's get into it. So, number 12 was a toss-up. Does a Coastal Carolina Chanticleers team get in?
Yes.
Again, this is a toss-up.
This last year for sure.
Right. Well, this.
Oh, wow.
Well, this is a hypothetical.
That's exciting.
So what I'm doing is I'm throwing out teams, and I want to see what the viewers think because
Yes.
I'm sure there may
Let
be
us know what you think.
Yeah,
That's
let us know
right.
what you think. Does a Coastal Carolina team cruise in at a number 12 slot?
Very nice.
Does an Iowa State Cyclones team, do they
yes.
get in? How about an Iowa Hawkeyes team? Remember, we talked a lot about Iowa and Iowa State
Yeah,
having
that's
pretty
right.
solid seasons. Does a Notre Dame Fighting Irish team that doesn't belong to a conference get in at a number 12 slot?
I think they're going to just by popularity.
I mean, possibly. Does a Texas A&M? How about a LSU or Auburn?
4 SEC.
Hey, I mean,
Wow.
you can't leave them out. I mean, do we get surprised? Does Jimbo Fisher, because, you figure Jimbo Fisher, and then was it a season, 2 seasons ago, they were on the outside looking in of a playoff berth in the 4-team system that we have now.
They were close.
Right, so let's say they build their way back. Do we all get shocked? Does the Texas A&M Aggies somehow find their way into a number 12 slot? How about a LSU team that was coming off like a 3-7
Wow.
year?
Yeah.
How about an Auburn team that's struggling to find a quarterback? How about a Florida State Seminoles team that may shock everybody under their new coach, Mike
Yes.
Norvell?
Seminoles.
I mean, do the Noles get in at the number 12 slot? I mean, we could sit here all day and look at this on paper and sit here and tell ourselves there's no way, but then you just never know until you get 2 or 3 games into the season, and then you see, okay, things may change. You know what I mean? So I say some schools on this list that I've mentioned, even if as far as they get is like one playoff game, because we all know
That's a huge win.
Well, we all know it's going to be a one-loss elimination. So if you're whatever team you are and you're at the number 12 slot and you lose your first game right out of the chute, you're done.
But it's still a win, though.
Right. So some schools don't expect you to win the big one. And if we're being honest, can any of these smaller schools that get a playoff berth win the big one? You won't say
I mean,
that they
Texas
can't.
is a huge school.
Right.
But I don't think they have any momentum to win even one game.
Right. And for some of the alumni, for some of the staff members at these certain schools, I think just getting a playoff berth is going to work for them.
Everything.
I mean, just getting the berth. I mean,
imagine Cincinnati.
Right. Even if you don't go any further than one game, let's say you get 2 games in, the fans can say, hey, at least we made the playoffs.
That's right.
Right. I say Georgia wins the SEC East. I said that earlier. I'm calling for Georgia to win the SEC East.
So you think A&M's coming in second in the West?
Possibly.
That's why you kind of picked them?
I definitely think that you could be looking at the Aggies possibly sitting 2 or 3 slots behind an Alabama team. I think Alabama rules the SEC West. It's just all there is to it. And to wrap up our podcast, a quick couple of points in the NFL news. Urban Meyer, explicitly stated, he said there are no guarantees that Tim Tebow, who's we've talked about before, trying out at tight end there in Jacksonville, there are no guarantees that he's going to make the team. Of course, I can see where Urban is coming from.
I'd break our heart, though. I mean, we want kind of some Florida alums to do well.
Right. Well, you want to see a guy like Tebow get his shot.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Meyer has to be careful because you don't want to come off as, well, you just favored the guy because he played, quarterback for you at Florida. I mean, it just,
It's such good business. It's great for the community.
Right. It's definitely good for the community. And even some of the fans in Jacksonville want him.
Almost certainly.
But I guess what I'm trying to get at is, we talked about the scenario playing out about him being on ice for QB, right?
Yes.
Well,
you called it early.
Well, Urban also come out and said, well, we're just not sold on Trevor Lawrence, their number 1 pick in this past year's draft. We're not sold on him at QB. So the likely speculation now is Gardner Minshew, who's been the current quarterback for the last 3 or 4 years.
Stash, yeah.
The Washington State alum. There's talk about him being the starter, Tebow coming in as a backup,
Wow.
Lawrence at third.
He's watching the podcast. Urban, man.
I don't
Urban, thanks for watching. He's listening.
I highly doubt that he's listening. But I'm telling you, I called that. It just
You did. That's great.
There was just too many any underlying factors for me to believe that Tim Tebow was going to come in after being 10 years out of the league and just, snag a tight end spot.
So he might just be listed as a special teams player, just kind of fill in where needed.
I mean,
Scat back,
possibly.
quarterback.
I'm telling you, don't be surprised if they put him in a few games as quarterback.
Oh, man, they'd sell that place out.
Oh, absolutely. And as far as the Tampa Bay Bucks go, I'm calling on the Bucks to repeat the Super Bowl. I'm calling for the repeat now. I say that they're going back to the Super Bowl, and I say they will win it. The question I want to know is, are they going to face a Kansas City Chiefs team again, or could they possibly face a very good Buffalo Bills team? Buffalo was on the outside looking in the AFC Championship game. To be honest with you, they've kind of surprised me in recent years. Buffalo was one of those teams, the kick heard around the world. The Super Bowl was at 90, 91.
They were in it like 5 years, in the 90s.
Just couldn't pull it out. Yeah, just couldn't pull it out. So that's my question. Do the Bucks go back and face a Kansas City Chiefs team again, or a Buffalo Bills? And, of course, Julio Jones, the fan favorite there in Atlanta, has left the Falcons and signed with the Tennessee Titans. I don't think that's going to really increase Tennessee's chances.
They beat the Patriots in the playoffs a couple years ago.
Of course, but you got to figure you had guys like, who was it, Corey Davis, and a few other guys. But some
Wasn't
of those,
that when Brady was still with them?
Yeah, I want to say Brady was still with them, but some of those guys have moved on now. So, what you're looking at now is Julio Jones is going to be the number one guy in Tennessee. Ryan Tannehill, he's okay at QB, but you're going to have more than just Julio. They've got Derrick Henry, and he's solid, but he's not going to be able to run the ball every single time, and Julio's not going to be able to catch the ball every single time. If you're a pretty good defense, you're just going to double up on Julio, and then you're going to stack the box to try to compensate for Derrick Henry's run game. So we'll see how that plays out for him. I don't look for Tennessee anytime soon to get back to the AFC Championship game.
It's going to be exciting. You mentioned the Bills. If the Bills were to play the Bucks, that might be a harder game for the Bucks.
Oh, absolutely. Because
they have some young talent, some energy there.
Absolutely. Who they got? Josh Allen at QB. He's a real solid young guy. Stephon Diggs, he come over from the Minnesota Vikings. He was pretty solid for him. I still say this Bucks team is probably in the best shape they've ever been in. They re-signed all of the 22 starters.
It's exciting.
Yeah, so I look for Brady and the Bucks to have a repeat season.
Knowles getting number 12 and the Bucks repeating. That's going to be a great football season.
Yeah, that could be a great football season, but you never know what'll happen. 3-4 months, we could be having a whole different conversation.
Well, Rob, these are great points.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yep. See you.